So, really comparing a job versus a business, it's night and day. I will say that a lot of people maybe shouldn't own a business. I always tell people with a business, you got to have some thick skin. There's going to be ups and downs, and that reason you're doing it is really going to get you through those. You're not going to know everything. Part of it is saying, okay, everything is kind of lining up. I'm going to take that leap of faith, which is the final stage, and I'm going to do everything in my power to make this work. That's the approach I used.
Welcome to the Franchise Freedom Podcast, where you can escape the corporate trap through franchise ownership. Here's your host, Giuseppe Grammatico, the Franchise Guide.
Welcome to the Franchise Freedom Podcast. I'm your host, Giuseppe Grammatico, your franchise guide, and we are continuing the conversation with part two of our series of how to prepare for job loss. So in part one, we talked about when to prepare, and that's immediately, and some of the steps you should be doing now, kind of that self-audit, figuring out the things you're good at and maybe weaknesses and the things you enjoy doing, followed by letting the family know, getting your finances together and updated, followed by getting your LinkedIn account at bare minimum, one of your social platforms, getting that updated and ready to go. In the event you need to kind of reach out to other companies or individuals should you be looking for another job. So in part two, we're going to focus on kind of the next steps of figuring out what is the next steps, because sometimes this is a pivotal point, right? We're figuring out, this is kind of a career transition, a career pivot, as I call it, as to kind of what's next. And the beauty here is that you really open it up to saying, okay, well, I worked on Wall Street, I worked in finance and investments my entire career, but in the event of that I lose a job, what are going to be the next steps? What are my options? So we now have a better picture, right? So going back to part one, we have a LinkedIn presence. So if people were to contact us, makes it a lot easier. And it's a great way to reach out to other professionals as opposed to email. And if you do have some thoughts or want to put some ideas out there, it's great for feedback and via those LinkedIn and social posts. We have a better understanding of our financials, so we know what that buffer is, right? Now we know, okay, I have certain savings aside. We know what our expenses are, net worth, liquidity, liabilities, assets. We do all that and kind of figure out, okay, in the event I were to start a business, what capital do I have access to? And that's taking into consideration equity in the home. It's taking into consideration retirement accounts. Not that they all qualify, but if you were to lose your job with your employer, odds are you'd be able to qualify from a previous employer, traditional IRA. So in those next steps, we're looking at things like, okay, keeping it open, creating a kind of another Google Doc. So next to that self-analysis and self-audit, what does a job look like? Do I want to be in the same role, same industry, or do I want to branch out? Do I have a transferable skill set? Just say that sales and networking and financial service in the investment industry. Well, that applies to just about any industry. So do I want to switch into a completely different industry? Maybe it's the health and wellness space. Maybe it's the franchise space. Maybe it's the technology space. But writing down, figuring out other jobs and careers that may work, and what are those, those salaries, and that's stuff that you can find online. I believe there's a site, Glassdoor, if I'm not mistaken. I believe that's the name of the site, and you can do a little bit of research, even asking. I'm sure AI will be able to come back with certain salary ranges of exactly, what those ranges are, what's the career, what's the education and experience needed. So, taking that into consideration. Knowing exactly, that who the HR person is, and you don't want to, start any red flags and start asking. But in the event, you want to know who those people are, because sometimes it is a downsizing of a department, but there are other departments within that company that may be hiring and looking to expand. So, and then, the other part is on the business side, if you want to go the business route, and most people believe that if you're going to start a business, well, that means you got to leave the job or you need to be downsized. And the argument I make is that that's not the case. You can absolutely keep your job if you're still employed and have that business on the side, whether it's a startup business you've been working on or a franchise, as long as a franchise allows part-time or semi-absentee ownership. And obviously, they have a conversation about what to expect and really needing a full-time general manager, someone in place to run the day-to-day of the business, with your involvement maybe being a little bit more virtual or, one time a week in person, but kind of setting those expectations, but looking at, what a business may look like. Is it something where you're just sick of the rat race, the corporate rat race, that hamster wheel, and you're looking to hire yourself and have much more control? Well, obviously the business could be a great fit. Some people want to go that route, but they're not comfortable with kind of throwing all their eggs in one basket and not having any income for not knowing how long of a period. And some people like to continue with the job as long as they're employed and have that business on the side. So this is where I always say who, not how. Figure out what you want and then figure out the people that can help you get there. So I can absolutely help you get there. I'm a franchise coach and consultant. There are others that are in the same role as myself. I'm an independent, own my own company and business, and part of a great network that supports us and has some great partners, and would love to help you out in figuring out if that made sense. And sometimes, we have an intro call and we're not certain, and we have a follow-up call. And, one of the really important things is the why. Why do you want to own a business, which flows through to everything, right? For me, it was time freedom, so that I didn't miss the kids' events, soccer events, dance recitals, and any type of events, birthdays and special events. And some people, it's more financial freedom. Now, these are not freedoms that you're gained right away. It takes at least that builder year, the first year, to get the business up and running, get the right staff in place, get the training, get the infrastructure all set up, whether it's a franchise or not. But that first year is truly a builder year, but it can create some great outcomes, time freedom to me, and being able to control my schedule, where I work, and put all my personal blocks, boulders, whatever you want to call it, on your calendar is most important to me. So, really comparing a job versus a business, it's night and day. I will say that a lot of people maybe shouldn't own a business. They're looking for just, I want to work for an employer. They kind of tell me what to do, and I kind of have this ladder, right, that I'm going to move up this corporate ladder, and that's okay. A business is not meant for everyone. I always tell people with a business, you got to have some thick skin. There's going to be ups and downs, and that reason you're doing it is really going to get you through those ups and downs. But it could be extremely rewarding if you can find the right business that matches what you're looking to accomplish. Keep in mind, so you got options here. We have a job within the same organization, maybe a different department, maybe a different industry. We have on the table a franchise, a startup business. These are different avenues. And then, kind of deciding, okay, well, which do I prefer? If I prefer owning a business, do I have the funds to start up the business and have some reserves aside? Because if you do start a business and you do get downsized, or, decide to leave your job, who is paying the mortgage, the student loans, the utility bills, and things like that? That's that buffer we were talking about. It's a buffer for your personal expenses. It's also the buffer for the business, if that business takes a little bit longer to get up and running. So in our case, we were recently married, and my wife kept her job. So I knew that we had income, and her salary, her income covered just about our personal expenses for the most part. And we had some reserves in the event it went over. So those are things to consider. Some people don't have the other spouse or partner or anyone involved in the household that has a job. So you got to take that into consideration. Again, there's no right or wrong here. I wish to say, it's not black and white. It's this way or that way. It really depends on not just your situation, but what you're comfortable with. I had a gentleman that didn't have a lot in savings, but he had $1 million in a retirement account. And I said, well, you can utilize a previous employer's retirement in order to fund this. And although that was an option, and the company we referred him to actually created that retirement rollover business startup. It's called ROBS, ROBS, from Benetrends. He just was not comfortable. Just had it in his head that you never touch retirement. So it's good to kind of have these options and speak with the funding company. Beauty is there's no fee for the consultation or intro call unless you were to move forward. But getting everything in place, talking to individuals. And now on the business side, you want to talk to people that own businesses. You want to talk to people that either own the franchise, When we work together, we'll introduce you to brands, and the franchise companies will introduce you to franchisees. But talk to other business owners, listen to their experience, but also for the sake of relevancy, find out exactly how they started their business. Was it full time? Was it part time? Was this business handed down from a previous generation? Again, nothing wrong with that, but you want to learn how they specifically got into business and what their life looks like. They may be successful in driving fancy cars, but are they in the business 20 years and working 100 hours a week? That may not be what you're looking for. You want to align and attract what you're looking to attract, and people in similar kind of situations, doing the same thing. So, and that's when I always say you put it all together. You gather the information. Now, the trick here is getting right to the point, talking with some professionals, whether that be a career transition individual, someone like myself on the franchise side. And, you can spend, this is where the trap I see people, they kind of, do research forever. And I know people like this and just maybe not meant to be. They're more interested in the research and actual moving forward. But at some point, you got to pull the trigger to set the expectation. I don't think you'll ever be 100%. You're going to be super passionate maybe about the franchise or the business or that job. You're not going to know everything. Part of it is saying, okay, everything is kind of lining up. I'm going to take that leap of faith, which is the final stage, and I'm going to do everything in my power to make this work. That's the approach I used. I left Wall Street, lost my licenses, because when you're not keeping up with the employer license, your licenses expire, which is fine. I knew that. I did that homework ahead of time. And I knew that within, I believe it was 2 years, I would lose all my licenses, and that was okay. So, but I went it all in. I said, I do not want to go back to this long commute, this never ending corporate ladder that it wasn't a good fit for me. So, getting all that on the table, getting all that information, and then reviewing that. It could be your spouse or partner or your family at the dinner table and looking at various options. Maybe there's opportunities. Your kids are older, they're in college, and maybe they take a role in the business in the summer. Maybe they take a role in the business. They need additional income, and they could be done remotely, where maybe they're just doing customer service or sales calls in between classes, something that's flexible. So you never know. By having these conversations, ideas come up, opportunities come up, and everything starts to line up, and eventually it will. Everything will start pointing at the direction to go in. But the whole point of this two-part series is really to get up to speed, get educated, get informed, control what you can. You can't control the economy. You can't control losing your job or not. You can work a little bit harder, but if the higher ups need to cut back and your department is on the chopping block, listen, it happens. Hopefully you get a great severance. If not, you may get a little bit of unemployment. You may get a little bit of a severance, but ultimately it's like, okay, eventually that's going to run out. So in the next 3, 6, 12 months, there's no income. What are we doing here? And this is why I recommend people create a safety net and have some type of business, LLC, S Corp, something that they have while keeping their job, is that they're not just waiting until losing the job. They're being proactive so they can decide if they want to take the leap full time and leave the employer. They're getting a lot of the learning curve and finding the staff while keeping the job. So yes, is it going to be easy? No. I mean, it's definitely worth it, but it's definitely not going to be easy balancing a job and running that business. But this is temporary. Put together a plan, and with 6 to 12 months, I'm going to be full steam ahead. I'm going to be in the business full time, and I'm not worrying about my job or getting pulled in to come into the office in New York City for meetings, or travel across the country, across the world for a meeting. So you put together that plan, you jot it down, you put it on. I put on my Google Calendar. You look at it every day, and then you're like, okay, what do I have to do daily in order to make this a reality? And as I mentioned, this is preparing. This is education, the who, not how, talking to those individuals, putting it all down on paper, and then figuring out, okay, ultimately, you're going to get advice from everyone. You may have someone that's a little bit more conservative, getting you a little bit scared. There's a risk in taking a business, and they're not doing that intentionally. They're doing that to protect you, obviously, but they may have never owned the business before. So the fear of the unknown is what's kind of holding them back a little bit. But ultimately, that decision is on you. You're never going to be 100% prepared, and you're not going to know everything day one. I invested in franchise and non-franchise businesses, and I'm learning every single day. And you adapt. The economy, the world is changing. AI is in effect. We're hearing it more and more often, and we hear a lot of franchise companies embracing that and investing millions, tens of millions of dollars back into AI to make the franchisees much more efficient, helping with the sales cycle, helping to reduce costs and things like that. So, and just being as efficient as possible. So, this is the time to get ready. I can absolutely assist in these areas. Sometimes I work with people and they're like, I'm in between a job and a business. I'm not really certain. Pick up the phone, or better yet, book a call with me. Want to make sure we're available. We have a time slot, but let's grab 20 minutes. Let's talk it through. In some cases where the franchise or business may not be a good fit, we've made intros to other professionals that maybe are able to assist and spend a little bit more time in setting up that resume or cover letter for you. So please, guys, take me up on the offer. I've been in your shoes. I will say there's some amazing things that happen when everything aligns and you get into business ownership. For those that obviously that's the right path, but I encourage you, the offer's there. My why is to help as many people as possible figure out if business ownership is the right fit, and then finding that perfect business. And that's where, we talked on previous episodes. We start with the end in mind. Why are you doing this? And what does this ideal business look like, from the industry, the investment, to the role and skill set you bring to the table, to the staff, and to the venue? Is it a brick and mortar or home based? And we spent a lot of time there. So I encourage everyone that's even thought about it, that's thinking of that maybe getting downsized, that's coming out of the military and have no idea what direction to move into. I've been talking quite a bit of people from the military, a lot of military veterans talking about funding options, discounts that some franchise companies offer on franchise fees for military veterans, first responders, and things like that. So I encourage you. We can definitely accelerate the process on a conversation. I can kind of break it down, and I always send additional resources, but we can get up to speed relatively quickly, as opposed to wasting lots of time looking at a brand that you may not be able to afford or may not even be available in your market. So we help with all that. And then the goal is to find the perfect franchise, look at 2 or 3 that check off all the boxes, and then take it from there and continue that due diligence process and research with each of the brands. So take me up on the offer. I love hearing from you. I love hearing your comments. This is why we created this short 2-part series. But I just want people to be ready for what's out there, be in control of their future, their financial destiny, and just as prepared as possible. So again, website is the best spot, ggthefranchiseguide.com. Book a call. If you're not ready to chat, go to the podcast, Franchise Freedom. We have 250 plus episodes covering every topic. You can search the term and find the relevant shows based on that search term. Franchise Freedom, the book, is also available for a free download for sale, hard copy on Amazon. That is my exact blueprint that I personally used, plus a lot of extra bonuses in helping you find your first franchise. And if you want to go just dive real deep, we have 25 FAQs that I get on a daily basis that talk about what to expect, time frames, costs, and things like that, all covered. We recorded for an entire day just talking about the questions that we get on a daily basis. So guys, thanks again for your support. We have some great guests lined up, in the very near future here. Looking forward to sharing those. And again, reach out if you just have a general question. Best way is you can just contact me right through the website. There's a contact form. Social media is fine as well. DM, comments, and things like that. And looking forward to, anyway, your comments, your questions. If there's a topic we didn't cover, there's a topic you want us to talk about, let us know. I appreciate it. Thanks again for all your support. And until we talk again, take care. Bye-bye.
Thanks for tuning in. If you want to learn how to make the transition from corporate to owning your franchise, join Giuseppe on the next episode. You can also follow on all social media platforms and achieve financial and time freedom today.